Welcome to Artifact Explorations with the Kelsey Museum of Archaeology. Today, we're going to talk about the field of archaeology. But to start, what is archaeology? Archaeology is the study of the human past by looking at the material culture or artifacts that were left behind. Archaeology is a science, and we have come a long way from the treasure hunters of the past. Today, archaeologists, like those from the Kelsey, practice methodical excavations, carefully recording every detail of a site. But why is this careful recording important? Because in archaeology, context is king. Context is where we find an artifact. Did we find a lamp in a house or in a temple? Did we find this pot in a workshop or out on the street or in a cemetery? By knowing where an object was found, it can tell us a lot more about its history than if we just found it in a drawer. One of the techniques that archaeologists use to study the context within a site is called stratigraphy, or the study of the different strata or layers of a site. By dividing a site into layers, archaeologists are able to create a progression through history, a story of the inhabitation of the site, by measuring how different artifacts relate to other artifacts and features within a layer, and taking into account other things like the geological makeup of each layer. Archaeologists can begin to piece together a complete picture. Let's take a look at this case behind me, which is set up to mimic the different strata of an archaeological site. When we begin excavating, the most recent artifacts that we are going to find are going to be near the surface. And as we dig deeper throughout our site, the artifacts will get older and older and older until we reach the oldest artifacts towards the bottom of our excavations. Let's take a closer look at these three layers of stone tools. As I mentioned, the more recent artifacts are going to be closer to the surface. So these small points, which we call microlithics, are going to be the most recent of these tools. Moving down, we see that prior to making this microlithics, the people were making these larger points and spear points. And prior to that, we see the production of these roughly triangular, medium-sized projectile points. Only by knowing that these microlithics came after these larger points, which came after these medium points, can we even begin to ask questions about how these tools relate to the inhabitation history of the site. By knowing the stratigraphy, we are able to ask questions like, why did the tool-making technology progress in such a way? Perhaps there was a change in the ecology or the environment, and there were different animals present, so they needed different tools for hunting those different animals. Or maybe a new people came in and brought with them a new tool-making technology, and so we see this shift. Only by knowing that these tools come from separate layers can we even ask these questions. If we found these artifacts together in a box and we didn't have any notes about where they came from, they wouldn't tell us the same amount of information as by knowing the stratigraphy. We would just have a mishmash of artifacts. So we see the context is very important. And that is one of the things that makes the collections at the Kelsey Museum so amazing. More than 60% of our collection comes from excavations done by the University of Michigan and the Kelsey. So we know exactly where our artifacts came from out of the ground into the displays at the museum. Thank you for joining us for Artifact Explorations with the Kelsey Museum of Archaeology. We hope you enjoyed it, and we'll see you next time.